Hey everyone, Neris is here, and I've got a pretty awesome deck tech for you today. With Shadows over Innistrad out for a while, humans have certainly asserted themselves as a tribal deck in Standard now, haven't they? What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a pretty brutal Boros Humans deck that's it's themed around humans. It's tribal themed, but it's Boros Humans. It works around the creature type humans, so rock it out and enjoy. If you like this deck tech or any of my other videos, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get it going. Boros Humans is Boros in the name of your mana base and your support spells. With one exception, most of your creature base will be white, so your primary color for the deck will be white with red support. Let's start with the mana base. For basic lands, you should run 10 plains. As I said, most of your deck is white, so this shouldn't be too surprising. Next, you are going to run playsets of Sacred Foundry, Clifftop Retreat, and Cathedral of War. Now, obviously the Retreat and the Foundry help with the mana fixing, but I bet you're wondering, why Cathedral? Allow me to explain. Cathedral is not an ideal drop. It doesn't provide you with anything but colorless mana, but you don't care about that. It is about providing an early drop creature with buff due to its Exalted mechanic. Drop this turn 2 after dropping a Champion of the Parish on turn 1, and bingo, you've got a bear. Rounding out the mana base is 2 copies of Slayer Stronghold. Again, it's about the utility. Early game, you won't do too much with this card, but later drops combined with the Exalted mechanic and Stronghold can be a deadly hit for your opponents. Now, we'll go with our creatures next, and at the bottom of our curve, you're going to run 4 copies of Champion of the Parish. It's one of 2 mainstays in the deck, a creature that gets stronger with each human you play. Since all your deck is humans, should be pretty easy. Gives you great early game presence and pressure. Now, it will die to removal, but that's okay. You have other threats for them to deal with. Continuing along our curve, we have a lot of 2-drop creatures for your opponents to deal with. This is where you will find the strength in this strategy. We are running 4 Knight of Glory, seeing as it has protection from black and gains Exalted. This is where the Exalted mechanic will really kick in. Have a Cathedral and Knight on board, and your attacking creature is going to be stronger. Plus, you leave adequate defense for later. You will run 4 copies of Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, because it's Thalia. She makes it tougher for control or removal to deal with. Plus, she herself has First Strike, which, coupled with your Exalted buff, is going to spell trouble for your opponents. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would you run 4 of her? You're going to run 4 of her because she's going to die. She's going to die to removal. She's going to die to creatures. Running 4 of her isn't a terrible idea. And now, this is the creature that brought about this build. Thalia's Lieutenant. Again, you have to run a playset of her. The Lieutenant will buff your team, and like your champion, it will grow stronger with each human you play. And seeing as there are no lords for humans, Lieutenant is the closest thing we're going to get to it. Now, continuing down the curve, in our 3-drop spot, we'll start with Fiendslayer Paladin. This is an often forgotten M14 card. It has First Strike, Lifelink, and protection from red and black. It survives burn, won't fall to your opponent's Doomblades, and usually will stick it out from combat. If nothing else, it will gain you some life. Solo attacks with Exalted triggers will keep your life total high, so we're only going to run 3 of these to allow for some other open spots for others. Next up, we're running 1 Mirren Crusader. It has protection from green and black and double strike, so it will definitely be an intimidation factor for your opponents, particularly if you can get a strikeout with multiple Exalted triggers. We're going to run 1 copy of Monastery Mentor here. With 14 non-creature spells in the deck, you can get out prowess triggers rather easily. There's a lot of value in Mentor. If nothing else, for your Monk tokens for easy blocks. And then our last 3-drop is a 4 of Silverblade Paladin. This Soul Bonder will give you 2 creatures with double strike. This is very effective with the buff offered by our Exalted in the deck. Finally, rounding out our creature base at the 4-drop is a single copy of Tajik, Blade of the Legion. Why? Well, he survives board wipe and only dies to hard removal. However, I wouldn't recommend running any more than 2 of him because of his legendary status. He's worth it as a blocker or a late swing with 2 other creatures. Double strike with Silverblade Paladin, people will be intimidated. Now, let's move to our 14 non-creature spells, and this is where you're going to see your mana base justified. We'll begin with playsets of Boros Charm and Lightning Helix. Boros Charm is the classic option. You either have indestructible creatures, all your creatures will gain double strike, or they're going to take 4 to the face. Either way, you can't go wrong. This is a great utility card. It's worthy of empowering or protecting your team. Lightning Helix is your classic small removal package, useful for removing smaller threats off the field, or lobbing direct damage at your opponent and keeping your life total higher. Now, since there are no real human lords at this time, you need something besides Exalted to give them a buff. Now, Legion's Initiative will give you buff to their defense, but its true value is in its ability to protect your team from board wipe. Sure, you may lose any counters on your humans like Champion, but when the Lieutenant returns, the team comes back stronger and with haste thanks to the Initiative, which we will run 2 of. To otherwise help them out with the absence of lords, we're going to run 2 Honor of the Pure. It grants +1/+1 to the team, seeing as all of your creatures are white weenies. Craig Wesco would be proud. Again, we're only running 2 of them, but depending on your opponent, you may sideboard for more, and we'll get to that here shortly. Our final 2 slots in this 64-card deck, and yes, I know 64 cards seems a bit excessive, are 2 copies of Nahiri the Harbinger. Now, her first 2 abilities make her more attractive than her ultimate here. You discard a card to tap a card to, you discard a card to draw a card when you need it. You can exile a tapped artifact or creature. Those are value. If nothing else, she'll serve as a distraction while you quietly build up your forces. Her ultimate becomes more attractive after you sideboard. So, with that in mind, let's talk about sideboard. Since you are running this in Modern, you should always have a Spell Sky in your sideboard package, just in case. I would also recommend a few more Honor of the Pure for those more controlling matchups, where you may be able to press your advantage. Now, let's talk about targets for Nahiri's ultimate, which, if you think you can get, you should sideboard for. An obvious choice here is Gisela, Blade of Goldnight, for her obvious damage ramp effect. Another good second choice is Eoris, God of Victory. He grants all your creatures menace, prevents damage that will be dealt to your attacking creatures, so Death Touch, first double strike, doesn't matter, not going to happen. And yet another good choice would be the Sublime Archangel. I used to run 4 of this in the main deck. It's now sitting on the sideboard. It gives you Exalted for days. You let the Archangel take point with a pretty nasty swing depending on your board state with flying. Finally, if you're not really feeling Nahiri, you can also run a Johnny Vengeant for help controlling the board state. It'll tap down a creature for 1 turn, or it'll lob a Lightning Helix. Plus, if you can ultimate him, you can Armageddon someone's lands. Now, obviously, if you want to upgrade this list, and why wouldn't you, you may want to run some copies of Cavern of Souls. All of your creatures are humans, so keeping them uncounterable will make it tougher for your opponents to deal with. Now, if you were to change it a little bit and decide to mod it for Naya humans instead of Boros humans, I would definitely advise Collected Company, along with a Tireless Tracker for added value and card draw. You may also want to put in a Mayor of Avabruck for an actual human lord as well. I know it's kind of weird because Avabruck is the only actual human lord, but he's technically also a werewolf, so it works that way. Also, you may also want to run a few copies of Knight of the White Orchid for some support for mana search, particularly in the early game. And if you are committed to protecting Nahiri until you can pull off her ultimate, running a copy or two of Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn would also be a good idea. The idea behind this deck is fairly simple. You are throwing out humans and running for the fences. You will come across problems with board wipe, but that's okay. The whole thing with this is you want to consistently add pressure. You want to be running at your opponent as hard as you can. You're not going to get a turn 1 attack, but 9 times out of 10 you're going to be able to pull off a turn 3 attack. So that will do it today for my Boros Humans deck. So what did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Would you do something differently? Let me know in the comments below, and let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Please spread the word, talk. I appreciate it. And remember, you can buy packs of Magic practically anywhere. Picking up at your local game store will help support your local Magic community, which helps keep this great game going. So, until the next time, thanks for watching, good luck, and high five.